buy a classic VW. Um, Traffic was really bad today, so I just got home right now. I actually was going to shoot this on the 73, but it's out back, so we're going to use Ocho here. Ocho essentially is pretty similar to a 73 Beetle, even though it's a 97 Mexican Beetle. But today I'm just going to go over the exterior body and what you need to look for. And this will apply to most classic VWs here. There are some things that are a little bit different from year to year, but we're going to do an overview. So if you're coming to go look at a car, you definitely want to go during the daylight. Don't shop in the dark. Don't shop in the rain. Ocho's a good candidate here because he's not a mint condition car. So when you go to check out the car, give it a quick overview. Walk around, look at everything, see if there's anything that stands out. You know, for example, you see this. You've got some damage on the fender here. Looks like a crack. I'm gonna look and see how the doors fit. Does it close? Does it line up evenly? If it's off, then you know you got a little bit of an issue. Look around the edges. Do you see any rust? And check this out here. So look at the front fender. We've got cracks and we have a big chunk missing here. That's an indication that there's damage. There's body filler in here. And then we move up and we look at this lower front quarter panel here. And you can see there's cracks up in here. And I'm going to show you the difference between this side and the other side. Now you can see some bubbling. This car has had some work done on this quarter panel here. This area here is an area that typically rusts on most of the Beetles. But we're going to switch real quick. I'm going to show you the difference between this body line on this side that's obviously had some work done to this side over here. Now you look and you can see the line. See how it's a lot more pronounced than what the other side was. That's how you can tell if there's been some work done. This car, being a late model, has the gas door on the outside. Just want to look in here, see if there's any rust, any damage. Check out the hinge area. Look how everything's fitting. Look at the gap with the door. And again, we want to check out this lower area here. And look all down. See this fender? We see some damage here. Look around all the windows. Now here's something I want to point out, especially on 71 and later Beetles. You will see a vent here in the roof. All of those Beetles from 71 through 77 will get roof rust. This rust goes from here, goes all the way down, and goes down into here. What it is there was a seal inside the body behind that vent. That seal disintegrates over time. It allows moisture to get into the roof, and Volkswagen filled the roof panels with spray foam. They absorb the water and they start rusting. So you want to check, see what it sounds like. Chances are 99% of the time the cars are going to have rust there or they've been repaired. It's a very expensive job, so make sure that you inspect. All the way up here, this Mexican Beetle, they eliminated that, so you don't have to worry about it. But this is an issue that a lot of Beetles have. Check the drip rail. Look inside here. You should be able to see a line going all the way up. Hopefully it's not been rusted. Just go and check the roof. Look at your fenders. Look for dents and rust. We're not going to be talking about the mechanical aspects here today, but open the hood, open the deck lid, make sure everything is attached correctly. You've got all your proper bolts in here, the spring is there, that it shuts correctly, stays open. And you see here at the very edge of the drip channel, you see some bubbling. That's rust starting, which is not bad now, but it needs to be treated and fixed at some point. Again, check the drip channel. They do have a seam sealer in here that starts to crack. And if that happens, you're gonna wanna put some touch-up paint in there. You see here, we've got some surface rust starting from where it's cracked. I'll be treating that, get it taken care of. Again, check the roof area. Now we're gonna go inside. So when you open the door, feel how it opens. This one's dragging a little bit, so it's out of adjustment. But you wanna check in this area here. So this part that we're looking at right here is the top part of the heater channel. This is the lower mounting structure of the Beetle body. Your floor pan bolts to this on the outside. We got Patches who wants to go in. Floor pans are another thing. You want to check underneath and you want to check inside. This car has sound deadening, so you can't see the pans, but you want to pull up the carpet and look underneath, make sure they're solid. If you can, you also want to pull up the carpet here on the sides. In here, and look at the heater channel. That's the continuation of the heater channel. It runs all the way up and goes all the way up to that corner. And then it runs all the way back and it goes all the way back here. But if you notice in this corner here, you can see down in here, we've got a little bit of surface rust. Now we know by looking at that front quarter panel that this car has had some damage before. So I've yet to pull these running boards off, but that's another area here. Now this board is pulled out. You can see where the mounting bolts are. This is something you want to check. Chances are you're not going to be able to see it like this because the running board is typically right up against the edge, but that is the key area that rusts on the heater channels. But check the corners, check the doors themselves, look and see if you see any rust. You want to do this on both sides. We're going to take a look underneath here. So this area here is the back corner of the heater channel. This is right in front of the tire, right by the suspension. And you want to look in here and see if you see any rust. This whole area, all the way up here, it's an area that it can be rusty. If you have to replace the heater channels, it's a very expensive and time-consuming job. You also want to take a look at the quarter panels. Do you see any rust in here starting? Let's look at the floor pan. Classic Beetle, #1 spot for rust is the floor pan. And under the battery, which is on the passenger side, is the #1 spot for rust. This car does have the original floor pans, but as you can see, it's nice and clean. You want to look and make sure you see this pattern and not just sheet metal pop riveted in. Typically, if it's an original car that's 50, 60 years old, you're going to have some floor pan rust, or you have pans that have been replaced. It's something you'll have to deal with most of the time. It's not a big deal, but it's not cheap. Nothing is anymore. So we're talking about the heater channels. This area here, all the way down, that's the bottom of the heater channel. And you can see where the floor pan bolts. If you look, it's not there unless somebody used an original panel. But you want to check and make sure this is solid all the way down. You can bring a magnet with you and check it out. These are your jack points here. You want to check for them, make sure they're solid. One way to tell if you have a rusted heater channel a lot of times is these jack points, if somebody's used them, will have crushed up into this area here. And that just indicates that the heater channel is damaged. So since we're still in the back, I'm going to show you inside here. So bumper mounts, that's another area. You can see this on Ocho. It actually has a screw on one side because they broke it off, and that's what they put on, a sheet metal screw. You want to look there, see if you have broken bolts, and especially the mount itself. These typically rust. So look to see if you got rust there. And also, while you're down here, you can look to see if you see any wrinkles in the body. If it's been hit in the back, you're going to see it right in this area. And that's the same thing with the front. Another area for rust is around this line here for the body panel. It's kind of hard to see because of the mix of paint and undercoating, but you want to take a look and see in here, see if you see any rust in the fender wells. All right, we're into the front. Now, getting back to talking about the heater channels again. They run all the way up to here, to the very front of which we would call the firewall. If you look in this area, this is an area that typically has rust. You want to check all in here. You can bring something to tap on it. And also take a look at the fenders. Look at this here. Remember we talked about there being damage? There's no bolt here. It's missing. And then they've got screws holding it in. Inspect inside the body in the front. Look for anything that seems out of place. See this here. You want to look for any type of wrinkles. Look at it here. Pretty typical on most Beetles. If there's been any type of a front end collision, this panel is going to be wrinkled in here. Check out your fenders. You can see here, look at that. That's body filler. That just goes to show you, same thing with the back area that I was showing you guys here. It's full of it. Come around to the front. Check out how the body panels fit. How does the hood fit? Does it latch? Does it lock? Open it up. Got all my stuff in here. But you want to check inside the spare tire well and see what you got. Now this car is very deceiving because it was wrecked in the front and then they sprayed on this textured coating, because what they did is they actually spliced the front end together. But you will normally see, if they've been hit in the front, you'll see wrinkles up in here. You can kind of see it. I'm guessing this car was clipped and then it was probably hit previously. This is all the mud in here from going off road. But one of the telltale signs would be a black painted trunk. A lot of times you see that on these cars. The trunk is painted black. So you want to lift up any trunk carpet you have and look in here. Again, this is all the mud that's splashed up in here. Should have a charcoal canister, which it doesn't have. It's been removed. But look right in here. You can see it doesn't quite look right compared to this. You want to check, since we're under here, your gas vent and fill hoses. Make sure nothing's leaking in there. Sending it. You can see how the tank is bolted in. Does it fit right? Is it flush? You see we have a little bit of a gap here. And this tank actually is dented. See that? That's where the spare tire pushed into it. Something else you can look at. While you're under here, you want to check your wiring too, but that's for another day. Take a look at your hood, how everything's mounted. It's your latch. Up inside the hood, you have damage. Look at this here. You can see it right there. It had damage to it and it's been fixed. This is not the original hood. As you can see, it had holes for chrome, which this year Mexican Beetle did not have. Another area to check out, the Mexican Beetles do not have the channel for the seals. Most Beetles that you're going to see North American do have a rubber strip that runs along here. Starts and goes all the way around. That area typically does rust. The good news is you don't have to put a new channel on. You can do the Mexican seals, which mount up here. It's nice alternative. Another area that's prone to rust is at the bottom of the windshield. Check this out here. Look all around the glass. Look for anything that you might see that's out of place. You know, it used to be that everything was pretty cheap to fix on these cars. Not so much anymore. So just be aware of that when you're looking. You also want to check the fit of all of the windows. You know, this here, look at the vent window. You can see the gap is larger here than it is up here. It does not fit right. And there is an actual gap where you can see inside. Check all the seals. Do you want to make sure your windows roll up and down right? Your door handles work. Again, like I mentioned on the other side, you want to check out all the corners. Look for rust in here. Check out every side. Make sure windows roll up and down. That all the latches work. That they open and close like they should. That's adjusted correctly. You can see this doesn't quite open far enough. It does open, but it's a little tight. Make sure your locks work. Everything you want to see. And again, look underneath. You want to check all sides, inner fenders, front and back. Check the floor pans, the heater channels. We're going to look out up front. Depending on where you live, if you're in an area where there's a lot of salt, you're in a northern state, you definitely want to check underneath. You want to check the suspension. Check the front axle beam. I got two cats that are in front of me now. Look for any rust in the beam. Typically, if they're going to rust, you're going to see it down here. You're going to see it in here. Another area that you will see rust in for northern cars is right up in here. You want to check that out. Now this is a standard Beetle, it's not a super. They're different. And you've got different areas prone to rust. This car has air conditioning, so it has hoses running through the tunnel up here. But check the beam, check the sides, make sure you don't see rust in here. And then while you're down here, look at the bottom of the apron. Look for rust holes, look for damage. This car was a lowrider. Apron was pounded in, I hammered it back out. But again, check all underneath here. You're gonna be able to make a fair offer if you take a good look at the cars. Back to the fenders, look around the headlights. See if you see any rust starting around the edges. This one right here, look at it. See those bubbles? Thing you gotta know about rust is if you see a little on the outside, chances are there's a lot more on the inside. And that's pretty much our tour for the outside. I've covered most of the areas that you would normally have issues with. Again, just to go over it. Oh, I see a question here about the cars having a factory AC. None of them actually had factory AC, but it was installed in Mexico.